The name Bellbrae means Little Bell Valley. A brae is a valley. And so people don't tend to realise that we actually drop away and we've got these beautiful rolling hills around here that make actually the climate and the perspective and the soil terrific for growing grapes. So Bellbrae itself is far enough inland that it doesn't get impacted by salt or the salt air from the ocean. So we're about 4 or 5 k's directly inland from Bell's Beach. This area, if you go back 170 years, was settled by German, Swiss and French immigrants, and they grew wine. So this property, Bellbrae Estate, was in those days, in the 1850s, called Gundry's Farm. And there was another vineyard not far from here, and the owner of that vineyard was from Switzerland, and he needed help making wines and growing grapes. And he called on a contact of his called Charles Louis Tétaz. And he came out from Switzerland and became, over the next 30 years, the main grape grower. He was an advisor, he was the winemaker for a number of wineries around this area for over 30 years. So he was effectively the founder of the wine industry in this area. And he married a lady called Mary Gundry, and this was Gundry's Farm. And they lived on this property 170 years ago. We planted the first vineyard in 1999 of Shiraz and Pinot Noir. What happens with vines is they mature slowly, and in 2020 we had 1 barrel of absolutely fantastic wine that came from one part of the oldest vineyard on the property, and we thought, wow, this is a big step forward for what we're making. So we thought we should bottle it under a separate label as a super premium wine, and that's where we got the name Charles Tétaz, because we thought to honour him we would put our best wine with his name on it.
Let's be clear, the Tétaz is only one of these barrels, one or maybe 1.5 of these barrels. So we really are talking about a very small selection on what is around 80 to 90 barrels. Richard, the owner, invests in barrels and has seen the difference that makes. It does take us from a premium winery to a super premium winery. The major pest is birds. That can be parrots, starlings, crows, cockatoos, a myriad of different birds, and they tend to move from vineyard to vineyard. So once one vineyard's been picked, they move to the next. Most vineyards either use lasers or nets. We're going to invest in some lasers this year, as well as our nets, just to give us a little bit extra cover. So we're spraying fungicide to keep the fungus and the mildews off the vines. We're lifting the wires and getting the canopy up so that you can get sunlight penetration into the vine. That helps fire the buds and gets you good growth and get good production of fruit. We hand pick 100% of everything. So all the grapes that come from this vineyard are hand picked. We have tried machine picking, but I find that it macerates, which is pulping the berry a little bit too much and doesn't leave the integrity of the berry intact, so that we can make sure that we've got all the flavours coming through to the tank when we process it to wine. There's 2 separation processes within winemaking. The first one is the separation of the stem or the stalk by crushing, but it's also to create liquid so that when it goes into fermentation, you've got liquid to do the heat transfer and to help you mix. You can't mix solid. And the second part of the process is removing the juice from the skin and the seed, and that's called pressing. Once we've started the fermentation, which is adding yeast to turn the sugars of grapes to alcohol, that process is exothermic, which is warming, and it naturally will warm the ferment if you don't mix it and cool it, which is what we do twice a day. And that's what we do by stirring the fermentation up. And being on this concrete is the cooling pad that we need to keep the fermentation under control. Otherwise it will reach 32, 35 degrees and be over in 1 or 2 days. I don't see them as wines, as finished wines, until literally 3 or 4 months after the process. You've got to give them time to come up or come round, especially if you put stuff in new oak, such as the Tate has. You want to see that it's responding the way you think it should. So the red wines go to barrel and they stay there for 6, 8, 10 weeks. We monitor the secondary fermentation. After that, we will pull the wines out. We'll make some alterations to analysis, primarily also to add sulfur dioxide, which is the #1 preservative in winemaking. And at that point, everything stops. All the fermentation pretty much stops. I really enjoy that final blending process. That's when I get to put my stamp on a lot of the wines, and that's when I bring my experience to the table, and it's sort of that it really allows me to, I suppose, shine. One of these new barrels directly behind me are worth well over $2,000 a unit. So the cost of doing this is quite high. The price of the wine is quite high as a result. Depending on which wine we're making, we put them in April, and our Bellbrae Estate and our Tate has, again this is another difference for Tate has, is they will stay for about 10 or 11 months and they'll come out in February of the following year. They get more oak, okay, more texture. The mobile line comes in and we literally put glass on one end, put wine in the back of the machine, the glass goes down, it gets bottled, it gets labelled, and it literally comes out the other end. We like to do it on site because I like to control quality.
Weather is the most challenging thing that we face. You have good vintages, you have bad vintages, and particularly Pinot Noir. So that's a challenge, to make wines that are consistently good, because sometimes you'll have difficult vintages. But as long as you're true to how you're making the wines and constantly trying to improve, which we are, we can have that good future.
First 3 vintages have got gradually better and better, and I'm very happy with the 23. The step up from our current range to the Tate range is worth it. We really are building a wine that's meant to live and be around for 20, 30 years, and it'll be a testament to this winery and this vineyard for a long time to come. So there's almost a legacy there. I suppose that's a legacy that I've started and want to continue, and I hope that it also continues well past me not being here. Doing vineyard work in the depths of winter is getting harder and harder. I've had the pleasure of my 35-year wine industry career to drink some of the great wines of the world, and I bring that 30 years of experience into making that. Is it the best wine in the world? No, but Australia's making some great Pinot Noirs that are relatively high priced, and I think they're worth every dollar. Wine is not a beverage. It has a component of aspiration, that people are aspiring to drink better and better, and this wine's about that. If you want to drink great Pinot, you can't go past this wine from our little winery, I don't think. So there's a component of quality there.